You hear about people making it in real estate all the time, but you've been intimidated. You've psyched yourself out for no reason. This is Red Mike. To be a pro, you need to hear from the pros. And here they are, Damon Williamson and Trey Stewart.
All right, so we got Greg and Andrew Strange here today, and they're both
Sometimes it feels like that.
Restart that. Just a couple of just a little
Sometimes
couple of husbands
like
here. They are father and son, and they are building here in Dallas. And currently, we have a few houses that are listed under contract or listed currently that we're trying to get under contract. We actually are trying to work one right now. But the whole thing about the new construction here in Dallas is it's a very fast-paced and very competitive market. And these guys are going to talk to us today about how they're wading through the storm of new construction. Welcome, Greg and Andrew. Appreciate you guys coming on. I think the first, Trey's here too.
Hi.
Can't forget about Trey. Trey's always here.
He's still here.
Sometimes you just don't know if he's here. But so we've got one question to start is, how did you guys end up in Dallas? Because this is not your hometown, right? You guys, you originally were in college before you got into the construction with your dad, and that was Harvard, right?
Once upon a time, about 80 pounds ago, I played football when I was there.
You mean 80 pounds heavier?
Yeah. Yeah. Not half the man I used to be, literally. But I took a consulting job right out of college and sort of had the option geographically, West Coast, East Coast, and had a couple friends actually from the team that were in Dallas and loved it, really pitched it. I was going to be on a plane every week anyway, so it didn't really matter too much. And that's what it was out of the gate. I came to Dallas and I loved it. And fast forward 6 or 7 years of working in consulting, sort of hop from a couple firms, new apartment every year, sort of doing the Dallas thing. Really was not thinking about real estate at all. However, he had been sort of poking me and pushing me. You really ought to think about it, right? The market in California had gotten tighter. It's always sort of tight. Grew up around it. But once COVID hit, everything sort of changed. I stopped traveling for work and
figured that new construction sounds pretty good right now, right?
Not so bad, right? Better late than never, but he can probably take over.
Greg, you've been doing this your whole life practically, your whole entire career, right?
Yeah. I moved to California in 78.
I was born that year.
And then,
Shut up.
Cheers. Cheers to 78.
I was supposed to go to college.
Big things happened that year.
Yeah, 78.
Oh, yeah.
Special year for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up going to USC, and then when I graduated, I was already in the trades. I was doing tile work on the side and started a little tile business while I was in college. And then when I got out of college, I built my tile business up, and then I just transitioned into doing real estate development. So I built my first house in 92, and I've been building ever since. So we're not contractors in the sense where we build for people. We buy land. We're speculative developers.
Right.
We buy land, get construction loans, hire an architect, interface with the architect, design the home, and then we build them, and then we hire realtors like you to try to sell them.
So right now we've got Cedar Springs that is 21 or 22 townhomes. I can't remember. 21, and that's coming up soon. And then we've got 7537 Centenary, which is Dallas, and that one's listed at 3.2. And then we have 4823 Cowan, which is over at the Bird Streets area, that we have listed at 1.299, and we have an offer on that one right now. And then y'all have 3 other projects that are going right now. There's one that's over there close to Cedar Springs, which is catty corner from it.
We have two in Lower Greenville, one on McMillan and one on Euclid. And we've got another 7 townhome unit project on Dickinson in Oaklawn.
And that's the one Andrew's trying to snag one for himself, right?
Yeah.
Couple, all of them if we can.
Yeah.
Depending upon sort of where the market's at and what's going on, would like to
build and
pay finance and rent and
yeah,
develop some sort of an asset management or portfolio out of the spec business that we have put together here. You know, custom homes, you build them, you sell them, it's cash flow.
Right.
But the long-term recurring revenue generation isn't there, right? You got to reinvest, you got to find another project, maybe take some profits, save some, whatever you end up doing, whatever your model is. But the townhomes, you can take the same speculative approach, but you don't necessarily need to sell all of them, right? Maybe you sell a portion just to cover the cost of the construction, and then you keep the rest. Maybe you rent all of them. I would say the market doesn't really allow the numbers to work.
Right.
Especially if you're building a higher end product, a more luxury product, you kind of need that price point to get your money out of the deal.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed from feedback on the houses that you guys build is the product level that you build is very high end, no matter what the price point is. Like the one on Cowan shows like a much more expensive house.
It does.
I have it listed for.
It does.
Trey wants to buy it, actually.
No, what I love about y'all's homes is while they're big homes and they're gorgeous, they feel homey. It feels like a comfortable home, and it just like, I think both houses that Damon has listed right now, they have like a good energy to them. It's a good flow. You walk in there and you're like, wow, this is a nice space, as opposed to some of these real pieces of shit that people build around here. There is some stuff that it's just like, oh my God, why did you do that?
The corners are cut in so many of these spec homes.
Yeah.
They're so, you walk through them after seeing nice ones for the same price, and you can literally just pick them apart. Like, okay, they skimmed here, and I was holding it open last weekend, and I was like literally talking to people that were kind of doing the home tour around that area over there, because there was like 5 open houses around us that weekend.
Only 5?
Something like that, 5 or 6, but there's more listed over there than that. Yeah, but there was 5, I think, open the weekend. So they're like walking in, and I'm like, tell me that this isn't the nicest one that you've seen today, because it is for the area over there. That's 100% the accurate statement for that house. And it's funny because, like, the building for profit in a market that's tougher to sell, you can really see how the builders can immediately look at a profit or a loss based on the inventory and the interest, because that area over there does not have a huge buyer pool that's just chomping at it to go buy the house. So for the price, I'm not surprised that we have an offer on ours, because it really is the best one over there for the money.
Oh, it is.
There's a new one that was just listed for 1.5. It's, of course, the ultra modern.
Yeah.
The ones that you literally, I think, Greg was the one that said it, I think, originally when we were talking about it. He said, ultra modern in Texas is not what California is, right? Because the California can do the ultra modern on a much higher scale, or know how to do it better than a lot of the stuff here in Dallas. Like, Dallas is trying to do the modern style through what they think the modern style is. In California, it's perfected as a craft.
Yeah, it's like modern cheap.
Exactly.
Well, that's like
what it is here. It's modern cheap. It almost feels modern cheap.
When you have to look at where you're seeing that product in California, it's in Beverly Hills.
Exactly.
Where you have these cascading hills, so the floor-to-ceiling glass is really highlighting the profile of the yard, or it's right on the strip, on the beach, where you have views. You have elevations and views. In Texas, you don't have that.
Getting a gorgeous view of the tollway. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're obviously a little biased. We like what we're doing, but we stick to transitional and traditional, try to appeal to a larger buying base. I like modern. I would buy modern, but most people my age can't afford houses anyway, so why are we talking about that?
Regardless of the style, it takes experience to sort of figure out a comfortable floor plan to live in. So I've lived in 7 of the houses that I built. And once you live in a house that you've designed and built, and then you realize the mistakes, just for example, the width of the hall,
right,
or the way the staircase functions from downstairs to upstairs, or your garage connection to your kitchen, or just all the basic things that you really don't think about unless you're a builder.
Right.
When you're a homeowner and you live there and you start walking around that house, you start realizing this is not set up properly, even if you don't know exactly instinctively. So I've got 25 years of feedback from buyers, and it really, and so you have to be safe, because we're not going to appeal to everybody as a spec builder. No matter what you do, somebody's not going to like something. But there's a way to create a safe space that's very functional. And one of the things really important for me, I don't like to waste a lot of space. If you want $1 million feel, you have to sort of make the house spacious, feel open. And so you do waste some space in that sense, but still you can make your hallways and your access to all your rooms very efficient, so you're not wasting space. People really appreciate that, because if you're buying 4,000 square feet, you want to make sure you get the most bang for your buck, and the more usable every square foot is, the more valuable it is.
And that's one thing about the houses that you build, like the two that we have listed on Centenary and Cowan, is like people walk in, they say, this feels wider and bigger than some of the others that have been that are there in the area. And I think it's the high ceilings.
Yeah.
The white, when you walk in the door, y'all kept those areas kind of open. And that's important. I think how large the house actually feels for the square footage. So that's when we get tons of good positive feedback. And I want to circle back to one thing from 1992, which you can piece this however you want.
Only 25 years of experience.
1992, you said you built your first house. So then from there, how did you get to Dallas?
Well, I met a gentleman here that owned some properties, and he wanted to develop them, but he needed some support. And I met him during COVID. I came here to visit Andrew, and so we exchanged numbers, and then I talked to him a couple of months later, ended up working a deal out where we created a partnership to do a townhome project. And it was a pretty big project, so I wanted to come here and sort of see who was going to develop it, how everything was going to work out. So when I came, I realized my partner he didn't have the experience to develop it. And if I was going to do it, I was obviously going to have to stay here. So I made a decision just to stay, and we ended up, we came for a month and did rented Airbnb, and then we bought a house and we settled in and leased our house out in California. One of my motivations was to get him involved in the business.
Right.
I figured if I come here, then, and he was still working at Deloitte doing consulting, but he wanted to get involved, at least on a part-time basis initially.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how it, and the thing was, California was locked down. The beaches were closed. So it was a really good time just to leave the state for a while.
Yeah.
Because we were on lockdown.
Next step in the process, for sure.
So how has that been for y'all working together and managing a business relationship versus a father-son relationship?
That's a good question.
Because I work with my dad too, and through that, he's kind of become my best friend. Yeah. But there's also times when I'm like, oh, he's calling again. And I'm like, I don't want to talk business right now. But like, so it's the best thing. So how's that been for y'all?
Good question.
Neither one of you want to answer, I can tell.
Neither one of us.
Where are you at right now?
That's great. We had a little argument this morning. So like probably thinking about that.
Pissed at your pops right now. Drink another shot of that whiskey.
As a father, I'm very proud of him. He's
a great kid.
He's really caught on so fast to what we're doing, and he still has a lot to learn. But he's learned so fast, and I'm trying to pass this trait on to him before I get to the point where I can't. I'm not as active, and I can't be as involved. So ultimately, the goal is to create the foundation for him, and then he can take off with it and take it to the next level with guys like Damon, know? So
I definitely think Andrew has a very good business mind. Like every time we talk about things, he's always got plans that he's thinking of for projects, and, how he's moving forward with what he wants to do and accomplish. And coming from the background that he's doing with consulting, I think it's a good match.
Yeah. Yeah. He uses that a lot. He uses that experience. It helps us a lot.
No, it worked out really well. I'd say we're perfect complements in a lot of ways. I mean, shoot,
are y'all a lot alike? Do y'all think a lot alike? Absolutely. Is that where y'all butt heads sometimes?
Very similar.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, he raised myself, my brother, and my sister, put us all through every sport that you can imagine, and we were all D1 athletes. My sister played pro for a couple years, so
wow,
we're all psychopaths, and we're a very high functioning family in the capacity most people probably think we're crazy, right? And not understand, like, with all the friction and this and that, like, and we'll scream at each other. 5 minutes later, it's like, what the hell happened?
Like
we move on really, really quickly, and it makes for a really good working relationship. But just his experience as a developer and a builder, and me coming in with a bunch of hard skills from consulting, like I was a project manager, so everything from, you know, putting a plan on a page to managing a timeline, and, you know, sort of working backwards from a budget and all the finance and accounting, and using a computer, which evidently you need to a lot.
Yeah.
House now.
No kidding.
The house can't be built without it, actually.
Yeah.
Funny enough. So we're a good team, I'd like to think.
So I was holding Cowan open a few weeks ago, and this lady opened one of the kitchen cabinets and she gasped. And I was like, oh God, what is there, like a dead squirrel in there or something? And she saw the outlets and was like, finally, someone got this right. So what are some things that you have learned through the process? Like, this is essential. These little details are essential in making a house a home.
Well, like the simplest thing is like in your pantry, right? There may be a time where you have some kind of a piece of equipment that's in your pantry. Could be a toaster, anything. You need a plug.
Yeah.
You don't see plugs in pantries.
No.
No,
Right?
but you see,
But you do see KitchenAids.
in pantries all the time now. Yeah,
That's a whole different. Now that's a whole different topic. We're doing Macmillan. We're putting in a functional pantry that's like a workstation.
Yeah.
right.
Which is a new trend, and
It is.
we're catching on to that.
The one trend that I keep hearing is not a good thing, though, for people is the under cabinet microwave
Yeah.
because of tall people.
Well,
I disagree.
Peter's like 6'5",
I mean, we're both.
and he's like, I love it.
I'd rather have my microwave in the upper cabinet built in, but the trend right now is people want to see that tray that, you know, automatically opens up in the lower cabinet.
I like it.
Yeah. And for kids. I mean,
Kids love it.
up there.
I mean, for us, it's all about cost.
Yeah.
And so we have to sort of itemize how many things can we upgrade. Like every spec builder, they can't just make everything really, really nice. You have to stay on a strict budget. You sort of itemize, okay, we're going to do level 5 plaster in this house, drywall in this house, which is like a real smooth plaster finish. It looks like plaster. That's
Right.
an upgrade.
Right, absolutely. Extremely expensive.
Typically only in upscale houses where you see that.
Right.
The kitchen, we're going to do a 48-inch built-in refrigerator. That's an upgrade. You know, you put a 36-inch fridge in, maybe you spend $3,000-4,000 for a really nice one. A built-in is going to cost you $8,000 to $12,000 and up. You know, so you have to go through that process, and it's give and take. And no matter what you do, there's going to be buyers that come in and say, oh, I'm glad you did this. And other buyers are going to come in and say, oh, but you didn't do this. So, you know, you do the best you can. But constantly I want that feedback because I want to stay on the cutting edge to try to keep refining, keep improving.
The new one's coming up. Add that to
And everything's always changed. I mean, now compared to when I started building, it's very different now.
It is.
People, what they want and their expectations.
And that's actually one of the things I wanted to ask you about. Like, what would you say you've been building for a long time? What would you say like one of your biggest challenges is for the actual new construction world that we're living in today versus even 10 years ago?
I'll tell you exactly what it is. 25 to 30 years ago, people didn't have all these reality shows where they're showing remodels. Now you have shrewd buyers that are watching all these shows.
Oh yeah.
And they sort of know what they want. And they come in. If you're not up to date, they're on it. Like, this is 10 years old.
Yeah.
Why'd you do this? You know, so you gotta be following the trends.
Yeah.
Because that's what people expect.
What about in the market today with construction costs? I mean, during the lockdowns and COVID, and I mean, we're seeing crazy stuff happening with lumber cost and sheetrock cost and concrete, and everything was twice as expensive as what it was. I'm assuming most of that's calmed down. We're back into a normalized level, but still probably higher than pre-COVID, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Or do they just get used to, like plumbers get used to receiving that premium?
Inflation.
Yeah,
Hasn't gone anywhere, right?
Yeah.
As the cost on your Friday night dinner gone down?
Hell no.
Paying more than you want.
Hell no, it hasn't. That's been so crazy.
Same thing for us. Like, lumber isn't the fuck you price that it was building in COVID. Like, to put in perspective, we spent $120,000 on our lumber package on Cowan. It's a 4,000 square foot home. We spent $90,000 on our lumber package at Centenary. It's a 5,600 square foot home.
I love it.
Calm down.
We started them 6 months apart from each other.
But
This is the shit.
what is that, like 2,000 square feet bigger on Centenary?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
approximately.
60.
You factor in the garage and everything, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Figure it's
So 30% less for 30% bigger house.
so the
Wild.
So what happened with lumber is the lumber company they mismanaged. They didn't anticipate what the demand was going to be during COVID.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so there was a huge shortage. And so it just drove up the price of lumber. And a lot of the lumber companies went out of business, and the last recession, 2009, 10, 11, they went out of business. So the guys that were able to survive that market,
Name their
when
brands.
they saw COVID, they're thinking this is the next recession. They were thinking about how to survive and get through it like they did in 2010. And they had no idea there was going to be the demand that there was for lumber. And so they missed it. And so not enough lumber. Everybody needs it. They charge more.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it wasn't really, well, I guess it technically was supply and demand, but it was also the biggest issue is because the other companies went out of business, and the ones that stayed in business were like, you have to choose us now. So we're gonna
projection.
Yeah.
Lumber's a bit like a very interesting business, and they have to do a projection because they have to negotiate how much of the forest that they're going to buy, what they're going to cut down, who's going to mill it. The huge expense in doing all that, and then they don't want the lumber to sit there after they do that. So they don't want to make an investment that's going to collect dust and they're not going to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
So if anything, they'd rather have more of a demand than less of a demand.
Yeah.
But they had no idea it was going to be that bad.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I keep hearing, out there from like the world of what we were building in versus now. It's like you have more competition out there now with people trying to build again because, there was a lot of people that, stopped really going after business at the time because they couldn't afford to make money. Well, they couldn't make money on the cost of everything that was happening. So people like paused for 6 months or 8 months or whatever. It's starting to come back around now for the ones that did weather the storm, but a lot of builders didn't make it.
Yeah. I
Lost. And remember that one that we looked at that was over at the M Streets? There was the one on the corner and the builder went under, and we were like, how can we figure this house out? It was such a bizarre floor plan. But that was an example of a builder that was overextending themselves, and then when they couldn't, basically afford to finish the house out, they were like, okay, well, I'm going to let this one go, and I'm going to hopefully focus on some others that can close.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're in this is a period where we've overpaid for any properties that we had. At this point, we've overpaid for them.
Everybody.
Mm-hmm. So, and the building costs are still up. So until there's more of a drop in the prices, and you're seeing the prices are going down now.
Yeah.
And they're going to go down more. I'm not trying to scare anybody. This is just this
is where we end the podcast.
This is the process. But the good news is that there's going to be an adjustment. The land prices will go down, and he's going to be in a prime position for the next market that does the same thing that this one did.
No, you all are.
But I think Dallas, the unique thing about Dallas, I don't think Dallas is going to get hit as hard as some other places.
No, I don't think
right now because people are coming in, and the price point here is still low compared to like where I'm from in California. You can buy a townhouse here for $700,000 to $800,000 in a nice part of town. In California, you want to buy that same townhouse, it's $2 million.
Yeah.
So, and the jobs in California aren't paying 3 times as much as they are here. So you can get a good paying job here and spend substantially less on your home.
Well, the other thing that, what you're talking about with the building overpaying and everything, it's like, I heard literally this morning from Brian McCauley, Dallas Mortgage Band, shout out, interest rates 2024 estimated to drop 2 full percentage points.
Yeah.
If that happens, which all the news out there is pointing to, it's going to drop significantly.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to be right back to pre-COVID. We're not going to be crazy, but we're going to be in a really good market.
Yeah.
And I think that's all it's going to take for anybody like us is, selling new construction. Because right now everybody really looks at this as like, well, it's a rate issue.
Yeah.
There is inflation, but how would we be any different right now if the rates were at 4%? We wouldn't be any different than pre-COVID at all. We'd be almost on par for rates, and then we'd also have the same demand because it was a seller's market before. It went to a skyrocketing seller's market previously. So when that all happened, like if it's just a rate issue, then everybody's still going to be out there trying to find land and build and continue on down the road, because the demand in Dallas, like just relocation in general, Trey and I were talking about this the other day, like the relocation market for Dallas has been a super hot spot, because you hear national news about Dallas. What was it? 350 companies have moved to Dallas in like the last 36 months.
Yeah, we're not going to never not be a seller's market.
Right.
Like,
you put it as a standpoint of like, if the demand and the relocation continues the way it's going to continue, and then the only component is the rates, then we're going to do what we do. We're going to end up selling houses, and we're going to all be in a position where like the market's going to continue to increase.
Yeah.
Right now, this is the first time. Let's see, I've been selling since early 2000s, and even when the rates were at 8%, I mean, we were still selling houses because nobody really knew any better back then. But this is the first time since I've been in real estate where we have been slowed down based on one factor, and it's rates.
Yeah.
The economy is the economy. It's going to go up and down. We're always going to have this, and it seems like every time we have a presidential election, the market goes up and down, and people say this is the problems, and we're going to fix all this, and it's always like this. But I feel like we're 95% rate related right now, and if that fixes, then I think we're all going to be happy with 2024.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I agree, and I think areas like where Cowan is, that area, that's sort of a transitional area for second-time buyers. Maybe they've bought a townhome and now they're looking for a house,
Right?
But they can't afford the nicest neighborhood, but they want a new house that has more room, and so that's a second-time buyer typically, and so they're putting 20-25% down.
Yeah.
So they're relying on financing.
Yeah.
Whereas a house like Centenary, they might come in with 50% or more down. They're relying less on the financing, so they're not hit as hard by whatever the interest rates are. So
here's the thing that I struggle with the area where Cowan is, and also Midway Hollow. Okay, so both of those areas are really good locations, actually. If you look at it as a standpoint of just access, centralization, everything, infrastructure completely set up and ready to go. I mean, you look at the Bird Streets, literally separated by one street, which is Lover's Lane. Opposite side of Lovers, you have Bluffview.
Yeah.
Bluffview is a freaking monster for such a small little space.
Yeah.
And you could literally walk across Lovers and be in Bluffview in a 5-minute walk. Mm-hmm. But yet the price points are almost half.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally like that much of a difference for one street. So why were they not developed sooner is my question. We're in 2023. Dallas has been on the map for a relocation hotspot and has all these different amazing sub-markets, Preston Hollow, M Streets, Lakewood, Park Cities. But then you have these two areas that have like literally been mixed in the middle of them for years. Nobody's done anything with them for like until the last 5 years or 6 years. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, booming with builders and everything else. But then the traction still is fairly low. Like you get sales out of them, but they're nowhere near the price points of what all these other surrounding areas are. Oh, yeah. It's bizarre. Like really.
There's a couple of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts on that one. The neighborhood itself doesn't necessarily want to improve.
True.
They actually voted to reduce lot coverage, so you can't build the same house that we did on Cowan anymore. So there's a little bit of sort of localized pushback.
It is.
That's just going to change. Look at how much desirable transitional areas have changed already in Dallas, right? You take East Dallas, Lower Greenville, those houses are turning over. It's coming. It's a $2 million neighborhood, almost, we'll say. But another problematic component and I'm a little biased on this one, but I think the right product in there is something more traditional. There are not enough bachelors who want a big frat house, and that's what all the builders were doing down there. And that's another problematic component. And it's a good thing for the most part. There are no barriers to entry to building in Dallas. Shit, I got started just teaming up with him effectively, right? If you can find a lender that'll put the money together and you can get your plans across the finish line with the city, that's all you need to do. Like when we first got started, he was wondering how he transitions over his builder's license from California. We go down to the city, they're looking at us like we're crazy. Pay your $150.
Yeah.
You're a builder.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wild.
It's true.
So you get guys that are self-teaching online. They're teaching themselves how to build. They're hiring just enough people to get the job done, but they're trying to make money, so they're not over-hiring, right? They're trying to keep their overhead low. So, I mean, honestly, you got a lot of shitty competition that's biasing what's good out there. And again, maybe
I blame that on the first few builders that did take the leap in those areas.
Yeah.
Because they did do that. They thought that area needed that ultra modern style.
Yeah.
And those ultra moderns did sell, but it sold at a price point that was nowhere near where things are selling now. They were selling new construction in the Bird Streets by Cowan for like $800,000. They were picking up lots for $150,000 back then. Yeah. So then they're like, we put $500,000 into it and we're walking away with a couple $100,000 and we'll call it a day. Now the price points are damn near double on some of these areas, but the product hasn't changed. It's just the price. Yeah. So like the traditional stuff that you were talking about, I said that, and that's the identical same situation in Midway Hollow. Literally somebody started out there with the ultra modern, they sold a few, and then people thought, there's the magic formula, let's copy it. And and the builders that you said just got their license, everybody started to decide, I'm going to start building over there because that's the new best thing. Well, it actually did the exact opposite and saturated the market with something that really didn't have enough people that liked that product. The traditional would have done real well.
Yeah.
The traditional would have been like the thing that for an affordable traditional house, that's why Bluffview's doing so well, because it is a traditional built house over there. There's very few ultramoderns.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the resale numbers in East Dallas. People love old brick homes.
Absolutely.
It's the best-selling, Robin Meadow, we know.
Yeah.
Lake Highlands. I mean, that's what most people want, right? And I see the buyers selecting that product. Take Cowan. It's listed at 1.3. There's a teardown. It's not technically a teardown next to us on Centenary.
Yeah.
It's a 1,800 square foot, 2-bedroom, ready to fall down. They put some lipstick on it. It looks fine.
Is that the one that sold for 1.1 next door?
They listed it for 1.1. It pushed 1.3.
Yeah.
So, and this is in Dallas, right?
It's not the
now you can go across town in a arguably better accessed location, better restaurants, like better overall, at least in my opinion, for the same price, and it's new and it's
night day difference. Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense, but it
still needs 5 years in these two.
It does because Centenary is three doors down from University Park.
Yeah,
so you're on the same street.
Yep,
and so
touche.
Your neighbors, the majority of them, as you go to the west, are all University Park residents.
Yeah.
So the only negative to the Centenary property is it's Dallas school system.
Right.
But if you're spending $3 million for your house, you can afford to put your kids in private school. So it's really not an issue anyway. But it's a whole different thing. But back to what you were saying about all these different architectural styles and how they came about. You know, these builders, what I've learned is these guys that have been in the business for 10 years or less, they've never been in a bad market.
That's true.
The last bad market was 2010, 11, 12.
And from there on, straight up.
They haven't had to roll their sleeves up and deal with competition and with houses sitting around. And if your house isn't better, it's not going to sell, for 6 months to a year. I've been through that twice. You learn from your mistakes. And I can tell you, if 3 years ago, it didn't, as long as your finished product was okay, it was going to sell. and you were going to make money.
And that's exactly why you see the stuff that's happening with some of these builders now, is because they've kind of done the same thing for a long time. And then I think they overestimate like lot value and then how much the house can really sell for.
Yeah.
Because if the market turns as fast as it did with us, it literally turned overnight. I've never seen a market turn around as quickly as this one did. And it was, again, all rate related. You can't raise rates by 2.5 times what they were and then expect things not to slow down immediately. Like, because the amount, how quickly the Fed was meeting and how aggressively they were raising the rates, nobody was like, I should buy a house real quick. They were like, well, let's just wait and see what happens. Maybe they're just, you know,
the headlines are hard to ignore.
Yeah, they're just
their primary incentive is to stop people from buying. That was the fine, you know, in the fine print. The Fed's number one goal was to stop big asset purchasing, levered asset purchasing, right? Make the cost of money so expensive that it stops, and that will ultimately put downward pressure on inflation. And there was definitely,
and it worked,
problematic inflation in the housing market, but it's not going to do anything to your grocery trips. Inflation's sticky, but
the other thing about it was that 2023 was really not that bad of a year for real estate if you look at like in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
like it was still a good year for real estate, but we were coming off of the best year of real estate anybody's ever seen, right? Or the best 2 years, really.
Do you feel like with the rates being what they were this last year, that some of the shittier quality competition has left the playing field and kind of opened room for quality builders to come back? Or do you feel like they're still
100%
trickling along?
And I told Andrew this when I first came here, before it happened. I said, I've seen this before. Mm-hmm. The real estate market can't keep this pace up.
Yeah.
And all these inexperienced builders that aren't licensed, they don't really know what they're doing. But you can get in the business and get by when there's no inventory. So if you can build something that's halfway decent and it sells in a day,
Yep.
And people are like, there's 5 people trying to buy it. Mm-hmm. So you really can't complain about what it is. You just come in and, if you have to, you come in and you fix it after you buy it, right? So the market was that good. There was that much hysteria.
Yeah. Think about all the people that bought those houses that were not well built and how much they overpaid for those houses because of the market they were in right now.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of that's kind of be hard.
Problem.
Yeah,
even in the bird streets, most of those modern homes that you're talking about that have sold over the last couple of years, they're getting retraded.
Yeah,
so people are seeing like, oh shit, they lived in the house for a year and they're getting out of it. Like,
trying to get out of it. Yeah,
yeah. And it doesn't help that, you got a half dozen of these on Cowan alone, right? So people are looking at their CMAs and they see 3 streets and a dozen homes. It's like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
How do you even decipher the good and the bad?
And you can't do it on pictures. That's the reason why I went over and looked at like 5 of them the other day just to kind of compare. Like, I'm telling you, like, not even a biased opinion. That's the best house on the market for the money over there. Like the other stuff that's out there, like there's one on Stigel, there's another one on, what's the one right behind Cowan, whatever that street is. There's Cowan has
March University.
3 plus, yeah, university is tough, dude.
Yeah, that's up on university.
Yeah. That's a price play.
Fortunately, we were under contract to do 2 more houses.
I'm glad you bailed.
Projects over there. And my inclination told me, no, we're only going to do 1.
Yeah.
Because if we happen to get into a tough environment sale-wise, I don't want to have three houses on the market. Oof. So we pulled out of the other 2 projects, and
you had
my 6 cents that
you had forward thinking.
It's being nicer, and so. But I think the key is, if you're in nicer areas, you're okay. You're going to make less money through this period, but my subs are going to ultimately they're going to have to adjust their pricing. Material prices are going to go down. The land prices are going to go down, and then consequently, you can sell the house for less and still make a profit, and then. It's only a matter of time, it'll turn and things will get better. But if you're building a bad product and you really don't know what you're doing, you're in trouble in this market.
I agree. And we're seeing it everywhere. Yeah, we're seeing it everywhere. It's not just isolated to the two places we've been talking about where your houses are. I mean, we've got across the board areas like builders are now doing 6% commissions to realtors again. We haven't seen that in a long time. I mean, I was getting those probably right after the bust, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, something in that range. But then that lasted for a few years. And then also like builders like Lennar Homes, they weren't even paying realtors when the market turned for the better.
Oh, they do everything
they were like
control everything, the financing.
They were like
sales, everything.
You can have 1% as a courtesy. Now they're giving 5% commissions again. And it's funny how the tide turns on some of this stuff because if the market is really great, you get it, right? And like nobody's really struggling to do anything. But when the market does turn to a more level playing field, which is kind of how I gauge this market that we're in right now, it's not a seller's market, it's not a buyer's market. It's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
There's negotiations that happen. That's a plateau, right? That's a very normalized market. So when that starts happening, then the strong survive. I mean, and it's in the real estate market that we're in right now for realtors. It's in the builder market. It's in the resale market. Everything all is now coming to anybody who got their license the last 3 years. I'm literally watching them on social media say that they need a second job. I mean, they're like, we can't even pay our bills because they're not used to selling one house a month. They're used to selling 3 because they had, everybody and their mother that they knew was going to try to buy a property. So turning the tide, it's like now we're kind of like this start again. We're starting back up again. And that's where I feel like we are in this market, which is not a bad thing. So you always need to correct health sometimes.
As far as realtors are concerned, 3 years ago, the brokerages didn't really have to train the realtors that much.
That's right.
Because the market was so good. If you had a listing, you were going to sell it.
That's right.
And so now you have to be very creative and you got to come up with all kinds of antics to try to put the deal together. And so if you don't have the experience to do it, you got to go back and you got to get to. So the good news is the realtors that do go through this learning curve, they'll gain a lot more confidence and they'll be much better realtors in the future. But you got to get through the next 2 years.
Yeah, they'll get a notch in their belt now.
Yeah. So I think y'all do a really good job of mixing modern with a traditional timeless feel. What are 3 things that you would today never put in a house?
3, well, my attitude has always been, I don't want the house to look cheap.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be good quality. So for example, I'm going to put in good quality cabinets. Now they may, and I try to keep my general colors vanilla, pretty neutral, because everyone likes different colors.
Yeah.
But I don't want to put in green if you want blue or yellow. So I'd rather do something semi-neutral that's tasteful.
Mm-hmm.
You might go with it, or you might want to. I mean, I've had houses in California where custom cabinets, faux finished, and the buyer came in and he's like, I love the house, but I'm changing all the cabinets.
Yeah.
He left the cabinets, but he spent like $30,000 refinishing the whole house the way he wanted it done. And he goes, I like what you did, but it's not my style.
Yeah.
So the first thing I don't do is I don't try to do any extreme colors.
Mm-hmm.
There's a trend like in your powder room or in certain areas of the house, they'll do these really bright, outrageous colors. I think it's a mistake because you're narrowing your target group.
But I do appreciate how you incorporate like a pattern in the powder room. And there's still some life to it. I always say, yeah, no, absolutely.
Saying that the Centenary's powder room is pewter green with gold fixtures. And
it's one of the
Taj Mahal
best.
countertop.
No, I like
loud.
And
It's not too bad.
It's not loud.
It looks good. So
No, it's not loud, but I say like it doesn't photograph well because like you have to see the quality of it to like understand it. It's pretty, but like you gotta like see it. Like it's so much better in person.
Yeah.
All right, so you wouldn't do anything crazy with the color. What else? What are some two other things you wouldn't do?
No carpet.
At least 2.
No carpet.
I love that actually.
Even in our townhomes, I won't do any carpet.
Yeah, buy a rug.
Most people do. As soon as they see carpet, it's like the plague these days.
Yep.
They'll put in drop rugs if they want a carpeted surface on top of their hard surface. They don't want carpet.
Yeah, it's true,
Yeah.
and I like that. That's really a good selling point too. I point it out every time I show somebody.
And the other thing I'm going to do is an understated front door. So I will not build a $2 million house with a 36-inch front door. You can't even get your furniture through it.
Yeah,
I see a lot of these builders. They have like a 36-inch front door, and it's like, how do the people move in?
Yeah.
The garage door is not over 36 inches. So it's like, how do you get a big sofa through that? I mean, and the other thing is, people that we typically don't build under $1.5 million. So you spend $1.5 million, that's not your first home.
Yeah.
I want the person to feel like when their guests walk up, it's like, oh my gosh, look at this entry.
That's very true. Your doors are heavy. It's like, welcome.
Yeah, it is.
I don't want it understated.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what, though, the next thing we need to find is a yard big enough for a pickleball court, because that's the thing right now.
What?
yeah.
I've had a good at least half a dozen people that are looking for houses tell me that they need this amount of yard size, and I'm like, that's very specific. And it's like, yeah, pickleball.
Super popular.
Yeah, think how small the courts are, and think how easy it is to plug one of those in your backyard. Cost wise, it's like maybe a third of the cost of a tennis court, but people love it. Like, it's now the thing where like people are like, instead of cornhole, you're having people over and playing pickleball.
It's true. You could do half court basketball.
I mean, look at Lifetime Fitness where we go. There's pickleball.
Oh yeah, those two courts.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's a bit, and then there was this high-rise tower that turned a penthouse into indoor pickleball courts, and apparently it's doing very well.
Well, I invested in a 21 court volleyball facility in California. Two of my kids played volleyball, so it's a big volleyball facility for big tournaments. And they started diversifying and doing basketball tournaments, but after COVID, they got hit really hard.
I can imagine.
Sort of shut down. It was a $5 million.
Hard to play
project.
volleyball with masks.
Since everybody in California, but what they did was they transitioned into pickleball courts, and now
They're crushing it.
the investment is doing really well.
Oh yeah, they're crushing it.
Have you been to Chicken and Pickle?
What's that?
Chicken and Pickle, you been there?
No.
Oh, it's a place. They serve chicken, and it's like a pickleball court. It's a great place. Yes, it's a grapevine. It's a whole thing. Yeah. Fun stuff. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Wrap.
I think go ahead.
To answer your question,
We'll edit.
electric stove.
Yeah.
Never.
Feel that?
Never.
I'd say any lot that doesn't have gas run to it, you should pass immediately and not even look at it any further.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Especially Texas.
Eventually, soon the technology is going to change. Not the political stuff you're hearing about, no gas, but the technology is changing for stoves. Pretty soon, stoves as we know it are going to be obsolete. There's new technology coming.
Oh yeah.
And it's not gas, and it's more electric, but you'll see, and that's going to take over.
We're not invested
It's
in the
powered
technology. This is not a pitch.
It's coming. Yeah, I think if you're doing townhomes, I think electric is okay. If you're doing townhomes,
How do you think Cedar Springs will fare with electric stoves?
we'll be just fine on that. Town loans. We'll put propane tanks in the back.
I mean, I'm doing.
We're taking gas up to the fourth. We're taking gas up to the roof. Rooftop deck.
Oh yeah.
Water, everything. We're prepping it so you can put a jacuzzi up there. Like
Yeah.
have to pimp out the deck.
Thank God.
What's the point of setting it up?
Yes.
If they can,
I love that.
Yeah.
If you have a barbecue, you would barbecue probably on your rooftop deck on our townhomes. So because you got city views, So,
Yeah.
and you can put a jacuzzi up there. So stubbing gas out for the barbecue, because who wants to carry a propane tank 3 flights of stairs?
Oh man,
Sounds fun.
the gays are gonna eat that up.
What?
Ah.
We're gonna wrap up now, and then I want Andrew, if you want to give us your Instagram so people can see the I think you're the one that's running it, so it's impressive actually.
Work in progress. I'm working on we'll call it a back office transformation where I'm not spending as much time on accounting and social and all these things.
All the
that
things
don't
that you have to
make
do
us
these
money.
days.
You just have to do them.
Right.
But at Strange and Sons Dev, DEV Dev, that's our Instagram handle. There's not a ton of
I'd like for you to do one favor for everybody. Post a picture of you in Harvard where you're 100 pounds heavier. Looks like
Yes,
looks like a
please.
different dude. Trust me.
I'll throw back up there. Yeah, it's once upon a time, right?
Yeah.
Things that you do to get yourself a good education and experience. But if you recognize me, the guy in the picture probably ate my current self.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, literally that much different. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. We really appreciate it. You guys are doing a great job. I love what you build. I'm happy to be a part of it. And you've been listening to the Agency Dallas. This is the Red Mic. See you next time.